students, and the general public on the planning and preparations underway for the start of the 2022-23 school year. Today, we will share information on the following: commencement of the school for public school students, pre-return COVID-19 testing for students, the 2022-23 COVID-19 guidelines for all schools, the launch of the signature learning programs, the government's $150 relief initiative, and public transportation for students. The commencement of school for public school students. On Monday, September 12th, 2022, we look forward to an exciting start to the 2022-23 academic year and safely returning to in-person learning. Yesterday, school principals, administrators, and staff returned to begin preparing classrooms and lesson plans and participating in professional learning activities. All students will return to in-person learning on September 12th, except for our preschool students. They will have a staggered return to school over 3 days from September 12th through September 14th. Our pre-return testing. In alignment with the Department of Education's COVID-19 return to school testing policy, when students or staff are out of school for 5 days or longer, a negative certified antigen or PCR test is required as a prerequisite for returning to school buildings for in-class teaching and learning. We want to keep our school environment safe as possible for staff and students to minimize any potential disruptions from learning caused by a COVID-19 outbreak. All students must have a certified negative result for COVID-19 obtained within 3 days of returning to school, dated between September 9 and September 11th to return to school on September 12th. As some preschools will have a staggered start, please note that your child's negative test must be obtained a maximum of 3 days before their start date. Testing schedules for our students. Based on feedback from our parents as a result of previous return to school testing, I am pleased to announce the following updates. Testing will be at 3 locations: Dalton E. Tucker Primary, the Bermuda College, and the Francis Patton Primary. And the hours of testing have been extended from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Friday at the Bermuda College, and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at all other locations and days. Bermuda College is for Sunday only testing. PCR saliva testing will be on Friday at all locations. Certified antigen testing is at all locations on Saturday and Sunday, with the Bermuda College doing just the Sunday sessions. Anyone returning to the island Saturday or Sunday can use the return test used to enter the island as their negative test for return to school. The process also has an option for negative results to be shared directly with the school, which should alleviate some of the issues we had with parents having to produce a negative result when their child first went into school on the first day. Appointments for testing above must be booked online at schools.resquest.com/web, and testing is free for all students. Many parents have already booked appointments for their children, and the Saturday and Sunday time slots are filling up fast. We look forward to all parents registering their children for a pre-return test. Revised school COVID-19 guidelines. As in-person learning remains the aim of all schools, the Ministry of Education invites schools, parents, and caregivers to work together to help reduce the spread of COVID-19 in schools. Although many COVID regulations have been relaxed, we cannot move forward as if COVID is still not within our community. As we commence the 2022-23 academic year, the Department of Education and private schools now have increased flexibility for their COVID-19 policies and procedures. Therefore, as required, they can introduce enhanced guidelines, policies, and practices appropriate to their system and school environments. However, it must be noted that the Department of Education, public and private schools are still subject to the Public Health Act 1949 and the Department of Health guidance on infection control, exclusion, and reporting of health events in schools, nurseries, and other childcare settings to reduce the spread of infectious diseases in other in-school settings. The Department of Education and public and private schools also have obligations under the Occupational and Safety Health Act 1982 to ensure safe and health work environments for students, staff, and visitors. A complete list of the guidelines can be found on our website, www.moed.bn. Signature learning programs for our senior schools. Not only are we looking to return to school safely, we're also on the countdown to celebrating the launch of our signature learning programs. Beginning September 12, 2022, incoming S1 students at the Barclay Institute and Cedar Bridge Academy will participate in signature learning programs. Cedar Bridge Academy will offer STEM and trades and professions, while Barclay Institute will offer health and social care and financial and insurance services. Bermuda, this is the change you've been asking for. To help our children follow their passions and interests, build on their talents and capabilities, and most importantly, help them to achieve their careers and further aspirations. The signature learning programs have been built by us, for us, through engagement with teachers, parents, students, and business and community leaders. We have created a vision of how we want learning to be: personalized, flexible, relevant, future-focused, inspiring, and authentically Bermudian. The differences you will see in the signature learning programs include a world-class curriculum that is relevant for our children, for Bermuda, and globally. A model of teaching and learning that incorporates authentic, real-world learning experiences and meaningful projects, attentive to the different needs of each and every child. Assessments that demonstrate what your child has done, can do, as well as what they have learned. Graduation requirements that ensure children who leave with the Bermuda Signature School Diploma have the necessary experiences, skills, knowledge, values, and relationships to take up jobs or apprenticeships in their chosen professions or trade and contribute to the requirements to entry into colleges and universities. And lastly, system policies, procedures, and frameworks that will support and sustain 21st century learning. Learning such as this will create a generation of young people who are engaged, adaptive, entrepreneurial, innovative, culturally connected, and empowered. We look forward to empowering our young people to develop the skills, knowledge, values, and relationships that will enable them to access and be creators of the jobs of the future. Young people who can compete locally and contribute globally. This is a significant milestone on the reform of education in Bermuda and further manifestation of the government's commitment to our young people. Next week, you'll begin to see banners through the city along with roads leading up to our 2 senior schools, videos, graphics, and more to celebrate the launch of our first ever signature learning programs. We are finalizing details for the September 12th welcome celebrations and will share any planned activities with the public before the first day of school. Government's $150 relief initiative. This government remains committed to ensuring that our families receive support and resources as we return to normalcy. As a reminder, we are issuing a relief of $150, a one-time payment for each school enrolled in a government preschool, primary, middle, or senior school. As of today, September 2nd, parents are advised that they will be able to log on to PowerSchool at bdamoed.powerschool.com to apply for this relief. The application form will be launched this evening. Instructions to parents have been prepared and will be emailed to all parents and guardians using the email addresses parents have provided on file through PowerSchool. The application form can be accessed from a laptop, computer, tablet, or phone using the internet, but not using the PowerSchool app. The step-by-step instructions are easy to follow. It is important to note that every application is only considered complete after submitting the application form and emailing the banking confirmation and ID details to reliefdocs@moed.bm. All applications will be subject to verification, and funds will be sent to your bank deposit within 10 business days of submission of a completed application. A list of frequently asked questions will also be sent to parents, and should they have questions about the payment process or the relief program. If parents have not already reset their PowerSchool account, they can do so by going to the PowerSchool URL, bdamoed.powerschool.com, and using the forget password function. The resetting of the PowerSchool account is critical for making an application for the $150 relief. The application for this relief will be open for a minimum of 2 months from today until October 31st, so that all parents can have access to this financial support for their families. In conclusion, Bermuda, we look forward to the exciting changes that are happening to evolve education for our country, and welcome you to continue to support our young people through their educational journeys. At this time, I welcome the Minister of Transport to share details regarding the public transportation for students in the upcoming academic year. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Rabain. And good morning to members of the media. As we learn to live with COVID, the Department of Public Transportation will transition back to the 2019 level of student transportation services. This means that students using public buses will see changes as they go to and from school. Over the last 2 years, under an established COVID protocol, DPT provided minibuses to transport students directly to and from school. Students were collected and dropped off at the nearest bus stop to their homes or destination. In preparation for the start of the school year, we ask that parents, students, and educators view or download the 2022-2023 school year bus schedule, which can be found on gov.bm/bus and will be posted in the schools. With respect to the school transportation passes, the Ministry of Education will disseminate the passes to the students at the start of the school year. A grace period will be recognized to allow ample time for every student to obtain their pass. Effective on the 12th of September, public buses will provide school bus service on weekday mornings and afternoons for the upcoming school year. The return of the pink and blue school bus service is a direct result of the 30 electric buses added to the fleet earlier this year and the ongoing concentrated effort to recruit more bus operators. Now, even with the extra 30 buses, DPT will not have the required 88 bus fleet for the winter schedule. However, the department will use minibuses to assist some of the school runs to compensate for the shortfall of resources. Once the electrification plan of the bus fleet is in its second year, it is anticipated that public buses will resume full school bus service. Currently, DPT is operating with approximately 60 buses daily. Since receiving the new 30 buses, the department has not seen mass cancellations like what was experienced last year, and will make every effort to ensure that the current levels of public bus service with little to no cancellations on most days continues as we transition back to the pink and blue school bus service. The department looks forward to providing consistent and reliable service to ensure that our students commute safely. For more information, contact the Department of Public Transportation at 292-3851. That's 292-3851, or email at info@dpt.bm. And thank you, and I can open myself up to questions at this time.
Yes, thank you, Minister Rabain and Mr. Scott. We have with us today Sean Connolly from the Royal Gazette. Mr. Connolly?
Hello, ministers. If I could start with the Minister of Education, please. $150, that's less than 40 cents a day. Do you think that's adequate, really?
Yes, I do think it's adequate. It is something that we're looking to give back to help our students and to prepare for the school year. And $150 is $150 more than zero.
But 40 cents a day in the current cost of living crisis, really? You think that's going to make a difference?
I do believe it will make a difference. Every bit makes a difference.
Okay, we're only days away from the school term, and you're only asking people to apply now. I mean, why the delay? This is annoyed parents.
I don't believe it has annoyed parents, but based on the information that we've been getting back, and I've repeatedly apologized to parents that it has taken this long. However, and once we announced the program and we put the details behind the program, it turned out that there was additional information that needed to be done to ensure that the fidelity of the program was in place. And so we've taken our time to ensure that when the application process is launched, we have worked out all of the bugs and all of the things that need to be worked out so the payments can be made as expeditiously as possible.
Do you think the delay represents a kind of endemic lack of detail of this government where things just drift?
No, I do not.
On the COVID situation, do you expect an easing by Christmas, or when would you expect things to ease off more?
Could you be more specific when you talk about easing
just
off?
in terms of testing and everything, and schoolroom conditions and such.
The guidelines that were released about 3 weeks ago represent a significant decrease in what we have. Virtually everything within our guidelines is optional for schools to participate in, except the fact that if you are positive with COVID, you have to isolate for a minimum of 7 days. So everything else is optional. So I'm unsure what you mean ease off.
I mean, just lessen the restrictions. I mean, do you see
The only
do you
restriction that
see
exists,
an end to
the only restriction that exists is that you must isolate for 7 days if you are positive.
And generally, do you see a light at the end of the tunnel on COVID restrictions? When do you think we could go completely back to normal?
The only restriction that exists is if you are positive, you must isolate.
Okay, thanks. Just to the Minister of Transport, you said you don't have the number of buses that you should have had. Isn't that a failure of planning and strategy on your part?
No, I don't think that's a failure of planning or strategy. A failure of planning or strategy would have resulted in us not being able to get students to and from school, but we're able to do that. One thing is that Rome was not built in a day, and we have to replenish our buses in a very strategic and timely manner. And that's exactly what we're doing. We have identified early that we would not have the 88 buses and made plans to alleviate any undue stress to our system and our transportation infrastructure, and thus we are able to go back to the way things were in 2019, which is where the world is going. They're going back to the way things were done prior to the pandemic because we knew it worked. It worked then, and we believe that it's going to work now. And keep in mind that since April, we have had no mass cancellations.
Yeah, thank you. But with all due respect, you're not building Rome. You're providing buses, and you've admitted that there aren't enough of them. Why is that?
Well, one is this. There had not been a investment in the replenishment of buses between 2012 and 2017. Since 2017, there has been a strategic and concerted effort to get us back to where we should be. And that is where we are now. We are following the strategy, and we have early and proactively identified any possible shortcomings and come up with a solution that will work, that has worked, and we are moving forward with that. So there is no failure.
But you haven't provided enough buses, so surely that is a failure.
No, not being able to get children to and from school would be a failure. We're able to do that, so there is no failure.
As I asked the Education Minister, what kind of difference do you think less than 40 cents a day is going to make to public school parents?
The Minister of Education explained that it is enough. Keep in mind that you do not spread this out over the course of the full year. Most of the expenses come with getting children their uniforms, their shoes. If the government is able to provide resources for parents to, at the very least, clothe the children to get them to school, that is successful, and that is what is needed to be done, and that is progressive, and that is what we're doing.
Okay. You told me earlier this week that you were considering standing against Walter Rabain to be deputy leader of the PLP. Why do you think you'd be a better deputy leader than he is?
I believe that that question has nothing to do with getting children to school, from school, or around the island, and I don't believe that that would be appropriate to answer in this forum.
Well, it's a free country, and the press can ask whatever they want. So why do you think you'd be a better leader than Mr. Rabain?
And I believe that
deputy leader, sorry.
I believe that it would be in the best interest to keep it focused on getting children to and from school, and I will not be answering that question in this forum.
Do you think there'd be a challenge? Would you be surprised if there's a challenge to Mr. Burt at the delegates' conference?
I would be surprised if we have any issues getting children to and from school.
If I could just ask the Education Minister the same question. Would you be surprised if there was a challenge to Mr. Burt at the delegates' conference?
Mr. Connolly, as my colleague stated, we're here to talk about getting our children back to school and what
Well,
would
it's
be
a
the beginning
general
of.
conference, and we don't often get to see ministers answering questions. So, also, could I ask,
Mr. Connolly,
do you think?
Mr. Connolly, please, any questions referencing to the workings of the Progressive Labor Party, I encourage you to send them to the Progressive Labor
Okay.
Party for answers.
All right, thank you. Do you think the appointment of Michael Scott to the RA represents cronyism?
Mr. Connolly, that is a question for the ministers that are responsible for that, for that particular, for that particular department. And I actually don't even know much about that at this moment. But again, these are questions that you can direct towards the Progressive Labor Party.
Okay. As a member of the cabinet, though, what's the delay in the GenCom deal?
Again, that's a question that can be directed to the Minister of Finance.
Okay. So you don't think there's a delay then? This hasn't gone on for quite a while.
My reply to your answer was that's a message to be relayed to the Minister of Finance.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All righty, thank you, Minister Rabain, and thank you, Minister Scott.
Thank you.
That concludes the press conference.